Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to finish up talking about our fictional narrative, and we're going to talk about how we can revise our essay to make it even better before we get ready to publish it. So let's go ahead and get started. And in our last lesson, we talked about developing the conclusion of our fictional narrative. Today, we're really going to focus on the pure editing process and how we can improve all the elements of our fictional narrative before we get ready to publish it. So we want to review by talking first about what exactly is this genre of writing. What is a fictional narrative? Well, fictional gives us a clue that it's made up, and narrative is just a fancy word for story. So we're writing a made up story. Because it's not true, you can be as creative as you want to be. If you were writing something that was realistic fiction, you would need to make sure you're writing a story that could happen in real life. But a fictional narrative does not need to be something that can happen in real life. You can have things like animals acting like people and talking. You can have your setting be on the moon or somewhere in outer space. So you can have all these unrealistic elements of fantasy in your fictional narrative. In our fictional narrative, we're talking about an animal that is going to teach us a lesson. It's solving a problem and teaching a lesson. So the main character often has a problem that they have to solve or figure out in a fictional narrative. This is how fictional narratives are structured. In the introduction, we're presented with a problem. Throughout the body of the essay, the problem gets worse. That's called escalation. The author escalates the plot by raising the tension that the characters are feeling. Then there's that element of climax, or the point where the tension is at its highest. And that really serves as a turning point where we start to work towards a resolution to the problem. So in the beginning of our text, the problem's introduced. Throughout the middle of the story, the characters are working towards that solution. Finally, when we get to the end, the problem is solved, and we want to know, what did the problem and solution teach us? So even though we're structuring the text around one big problem, there can often be smaller problems within the story. And authors sometimes use those smaller problems to create that escalation. So now we're going to work together. You're going to either work with your partner, or you're going to use a peer review checklist to self-edit your writing if you don't have someone who can help you. But the idea here is to get better as a writer. And if you have to do it on your own, that's okay. You can use the peer review checklist as a self-review tool. But if you have someone who can help you, it's always best if you can get a second pair of eyes on your writing. So when we revise our work, we're looking to make changes to the format of our essay. We want to know, is there something I can add to the essay, something I can take out, or maybe something that just needs to be changed? When we edit our work, we want to make sure our spelling, our grammar, and our punctuation are all perfect so we can turn it into our teacher or submit it for publication. Remember, when we're first drafting our essay, we want to get our ideas down on paper. It doesn't matter if the spelling is bad. I don't worry about grammar or punctuation or any of that. And people say, well, that's important. Yes, it's important, but it's most important in the beginning to get your ideas down. It's not important to make sure your grammar and spelling and punctuation are perfect until the end. And that's now. Now we want to make sure that everything is perfect. So we're going to work on helping our classmates, or our peers in your case, to improve. We want to make sure that we give constructive criticism. That means criticism that helps your partner to get better. And I've got two examples here. The first sentence is unclear and stupid. I don't even know what you're saying. So, of course, that's not going to help someone to get better, right? The second sentence is an example of constructive criticism. The first sentence doesn't really get my attention. I would add this to make it better. So you're telling what's wrong and how it can be improved instead of just saying something is bad or stupid. And just as we don't want to say mean things, we also don't want to just say, hey, good job, I love it, right? We want to help the other person to get better. There's nothing wrong with receiving criticism either. If your partner gives you some criticism that helps you to improve your essay, be grateful for that. That's making you a better writer. So when you go back to your seat, you're going to use a peer review checklist. And I've got this here, and I'm going to show you the peer review checklist in a moment. This is in my Teachers Pay Teachers resource, which you can find linked in the video description. The first sentence gets my attention, and we talked about all these strategies that we can use to hook our reader. The writer introduces the characters and setting, and the writer introduces the problem. So you can work through the checklist and add some comments there. The narrative should be organized around a problem and solution. We want to develop the problem over 2 to 3 body paragraphs. And we want to add 3 to 5 key events to make up the plot. We want to really help our reader to imagine what's happening in the story. So we can add sensory details, description, and dialogue to really develop the smaller moments that are in that story. Sequence words help to move the plot along. And finally, at the end, we want to show the problems resolved. We want to show how the character feels. We want to communicate that theme, that message or lesson with the reader. We don't want to just say, oh, the characters are happy. We want to show in their actions that they're happy. So when you show how the characters feel, you're showing what they do that indicates they're feeling a particular way. And also make sure that the writing that your partner does addresses the prompt. And of course, we want to make sure our spelling, grammar, and punctuation are all perfect. And here we've got that peer review checklist. Again, this is available in the Teachers Pay Teachers resource. And that has all of those elements that I just mentioned. Okay, now after your students work through this, you can have them come back to the carpet and you can have them share whatever it is that they learned from the peer review process. And they can also share whatever their final version of their essay is. So that brings us to the end of our fictional narrative genre of writing for grade 4. Again, you can find this resource linked in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. And please remember to subscribe to my channel so you get all my upcoming genres of writing for academic and creative writing. And I'll see you in our next video.